Okay, here we go. Go. Hello, good evening. Hope everyone's having a good week. Thanks for tuning in to Fashion Bites Series 2020 finale, the last one for this year. I'm Hillary, founder of the Fashion Bites platform. We're here to support and nurture creative entrepreneurs, filling in the gap between education and what happens in real life. This is our way to connect, collaborate, and share. We truly hope you find the information we provide practical and useful. We've been doing our lives since June, every week, and they are available for you to catch up on IGTV. They're also now starting to be available as a podcast on namely Spotify and Anchor, soon to be live on Google Podcast. So we'll be able to catch up, watch the videos again, or listen at your pleasure. We're super excited about our guest tonight, Jane Kellock. She's the founder of Unique Style Platform with us today. We're really looking forward to this chat, just covering everything, touching on everything that's happened over the last few months within fashion and the changing landscape of the industry and the world, really. But yes, we are so looking forward to it, to hearing from Jane again. She was with us for our first live, so thought it would be very appropriate for her to be in our in the last one for the year, so we can do a proper roundup. And the one thing that I need to do is do this. It looks like Jane is on, so let's get her on now. Come on. This will be good. Right. So yes. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah.
Great seeing you again.
And you, yeah, absolutely. We've been enjoying your lives on a Thursday. We've been tuning in.
Thank you very much. I've gotten a tiny bit better since the first one.
That was 3 years ago, the first one. It seems like 3 years ago.
I know. Welcome back. As I've said, please, before we dive into the questions, please tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm the creative director and the founder of Unique Style Platform, which is a trend forecasting service. We work with bespoke clients, and we have a subscription-based website, and we work across colour, fabric, catwalks, anything to do with the fashion and lifestyle industry that people need to know about the future.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Now, it goes without saying that it's been an incredibly tough few months, and especially in the last few weeks with the high street. Of course, I have to mention Topshop. That's a part of your history. I actually realized I did some temp work at Arcadia's head office like over 20 years ago. So it's in our memories, and it's a part of the high street. What are your thoughts about the possibility of Arcadia Group being no more?
Well, it's incredibly sad, especially since, like you say, it's so much a part of a lot of people's DNA, and it employs so many people, mainly women as well, and that's incredibly sad. From everyone, from the supply chain right through to the people that work in the stores, it's just it's a tragedy. It really is. And you know, it doesn't mean that we're not going to shop anymore. It doesn't mean that it's the end of the high street, but it is as we know it. But it's a kind of a significant of the way that things have moved online, really, and how a lot of the big traditional retailers haven't really kept up with what's going on. And you know, I still have a lot of contacts in the high street, and it's very obvious from a lot of us point of views why it's failed, but it's nonetheless really, really sad.
Yeah, yeah, it is definitely. How would you describe consumer behavior at the moment
I would
from
say,
the start of?
I think the word, I would use the word cautious. Although, having said that, I have heard from a variety of sources that the luxury market's still doing incredibly well, which, you know, is surprising in a way, because where are people going to wear these beautiful clothes? Because no one's going anywhere. But, you know, it's the age-old thing of people using clothes as a way to make them feel better. And so you may, you know, at the beginning of lockdown, it was, you know, all about the death of fashion, and we don't need clothes and all of those things. But we actually do, because we need to feel better about ourselves. But we are being cautious about what we buy, because it's made us realize on a variety of levels that we don't really need to have so much of everything in our life. We don't need to eat out all the time. We don't need to get our nails done every single week. We don't need to buy new clothes quite as regularly as we have been doing. It's nice to do all of those things, but they became so much a part of everyday life rather than a special treat. So now I think people are looking at things much more practically, much more sensibly. They're considering the planet. They're thinking about lots of issues before they buy. And if they are going to buy, they're going to buy something that either makes them feel really good, is very beautiful, or is incredibly practical and incredibly comfortable. So we're not seeing the end of fashion as we know it, but we're seeing the end of consumption as we know it, maybe.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. In saying that, how, as a brand, how would you capture and keep consumers' attention right now?
I think one of the words, we're actually working on our spring summer 22 macro trends at the moment, and one of the words we're talking about a lot is community and building communities, because one of the most interesting things to come out of this last year is the emergence of platforms such as Depop and TikTok, and they are creating communities, and they're not just about selling or buying, or they're creating communities based on humor, based on like-minded hobbies, based on being creative, and sometimes based on buying, but it's not the sole purpose of those platforms. So I think that brands have got to tap into that and create communities that are not just about buying. I've heard a lot of being talked about, you know, what will the high street look like in the future? And we're talking about creating destinations that, again, are not based on just shopping. They might be based on hobbies, they might be based on sports or activities or experiences. So we've got to kind of create this digital world which blends the physical and the digital, that encompasses all of those things that consumers are interested in at the moment, and they're not just shopping. Shopping's become some kind of like lifestyle and hobby. We know that's not sustainable. We still want to do it, but we need to encompass other things as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And with the shopping side of things, I've noticed, and maybe it's been around for a while and I'm just like getting clued in, the buy now, pay later
Cool, isn't it, Clara?
Scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it's encouraging. There's lots of that, I suppose, in a way, isn't there? Even restaurants are sort of doing like vouchers to encourage you to go later on, to, you know, to experience things later on. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's kind of like the old days of a catalogue where you could pay weekly. You know, is it a good thing? Is it encouraging people to get into debt? I don't really know. I mean,
That's
cautious. I think people should be cautious about that.
absolutely. It literally makes me think of creating debt.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not going to get us out of this situation.
No. Now, with the rise of fashion films, brands, of course, are looking for different ways to communicate their message. And I think Fashion Week was probably a prime example. Were there any standout moments for you?
I think some of the behind the scenes insights into the designers' influences were really interesting. I loved some of the London Fashion Week kind of look around people's studios and the things that had inspired them during lockdown to come up with their collections. There was much more craft going on. There was much more kind of DIY, kind of painting, and going back to the kind of old traditional ways of creating collections. And I find that really inspiring. I think the films are brilliant and really interesting. I'm not sure about how useful they are in terms of actually seeing the clothes. I think they inspire and they kind of give you an idea of the thinking behind the collections. But if you were an actual buyer, it would be very difficult to see the fabric, to see the garments up close, because it's becoming more about performance, which I think is a great thing. But from a practical point of view, I'm not sure how easy it would be as a buyer to actually use those to buy from.
Right, right. So in future, we're probably looking at a hybrid still, but going back eventually to in-person shows.
Yeah, but then there's much talk about how, you know, the carbon footprint of those shows, the amount of traveling that everybody does, the cost of the sets, which are thrown away. You know, it's not sustainable to have those shows. So having, again, that word phygital, it's having some sort of physical where you can see the clothes, but then some kind of digital engagement, because I think shows have moved away from just being for industry insiders. That becomes something that anyone can access, and that's brilliant because that's democratizing fashion and making it accessible to everybody. So making that accessible through film and performance and excitement and experience is great, but then providing some kind of actual physical way that people can view the clothes, see the fabrics, feel the quality is also still really important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's chat about style versus trends. I think sometimes the word trends, it gets a mixed response. Yeah. And when they think of trends, sometimes you think about having the latest or keeping up, and that may lead to more consumption than we would like. Would you agree that we should focus more on style, twist it a little?
Absolutely, because we really hate using the word trend anyway. I mean, we are a trend forecasting service, so we can't really get away from that word, but it implies something that's transient, that's fast moving, that's cheap, that's not good for the environment. So we want to try and move away from that, and we want to try and encourage the people that we work with to think about their brand and think about their own individual style and what that means to their customer, and to encourage their customer to evolve their wardrobes rather than change it dramatically every single season. And some of the brands that I personally like are all about style. They're seasonless in a way, so you could wear something from 5 years ago and it would still be equally relevant as something that you had bought last week, because they create their own style and they're very unique in their kind of handwriting. And the brands that seem to be successful at the moment, some of the smaller brands, they're really doing their own thing. You know, it's really interesting to see that. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. Style is massively important.
Right, right. Thank you. Now with everything that's happened over the past few months, there is the rise of loungewear, casual, athleisure, that sort of thing. Given that flexibility will probably continue going forward into 2021, do you think in general we'll just get more and more casual?
I think that's a difficult one, because I was watching Jenna Lyons this morning on, I think it was on Instagram, and she was talking about how she thinks casual wear, and I tend to agree with this, will be a bit like when you were pregnant. You never wanted to see your maternity clothes ever again after you'd had a baby. And I keep saying that. I keep saying that no one is going to want to see those grey marl sweatpants at the end of 2021 when we hopefully come out of this situation. So I think there will be an evolution of casual wear. I think we will continue with it for a while because it's comfortable and it's easy. And, you know, we need a smarter top for Zoom meetings and a casual bottom for lounging around. But at the end of the day, we can't wait to get out. We can't wait to dress up and go for dinner and you know, just feel like we're different people than we have been for the last year. So I think it's one, if I was a brand that was switching my entire product mix into casual wear, I would be very, very wary, because I think that it's going to be one to watch, because as we come out of this, we're going to want to, you know, have beautiful clothes that make us feel amazing.
Right. Agree. Now, there's still a lot of conversation around sustainability. And yes, the demand for fashion is declining somewhat, but do you think we can maybe get our fashion fix from rentals?
I think so. I think rentals, and also from secondhand and vintage. I mean, that's growing massively, particularly for the younger consumer. You know, a lot of young consumers just don't even consider buying something new. And I think the same thing will be true of furniture as well. I just noticed, I was in Shoreditch earlier, and noticed that the old whistle shops turned into a vintage furniture shop. And I thought that's kind of a sign of things to come, because we've got enough stuff. We've got enough clothes. We don't really need any more in the world. So being able to upcycle, recycle, buy secondhand is going to be increasingly important. And the rental market taps into that for sure, because, you know, that's just an easy way of accessing mostly occasion wear. In a way, I think that has gone. I think it's difficult at the moment because of COVID, and I know that they're kind of struggling, but I think it will come back when we get normal, definitely.
Definitely. Now, let's look at diversity and inclusion. Now, there's been loads of talk, and hopefully brands don't think using Black models for a season is enough. Have you seen any significant changes beyond the Black square?
I mean, we have seen, as something we've talked about a lot, especially when Vogue did that whole, you know, change, what do they call it? I can't remember, renew or whatever it was. And almost every model in Vogue that month was Black, which was amazing. But we, you know, cynically said, let's just hope this isn't a trend, because, you know, you were talking about trends before. Trends for diversity, for inclusion, for all, they can be trends, and that's so worrying. And the fashion industry is the worst for jumping on a bandwagon and then not really doing anything about it. And I've noticed a lot of influencers, for a month all they talked about was diversity, and then they've gone back to posting only about white brands or not really being inclusive. And, you know, you've actually got to be genuine about these things, and because at the end of the day, the consumer will call you out if you're not. You know, they really will. They're on top of this. They're more aware of this than these brands are. And especially these big corporate brands, they just sometimes live on a different planet. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we've seen happen, but I'm a little wary of the fact that it isn't people jumping on a bandwagon. I really hope not. But there's been a lot around, you know, small brands, independent brands. That's generally a massive shift anyway, the fact that people are looking for local and independent brands. And a lot of people have been calling out brands that have got more diverse owners, or are doing good things, and maybe doing stuff with charity or giving back in some way. And for a while we thought maybe that was a bit of a trend, but it does seem to be that consumers are really tapping into that. You know, buying locals becomes such a massive thing during lockdown. You know, Oxford Street's empty, but you know, most people's local high streets are absolutely packed. So I think we are seeing a massive shift in a lot of areas, and I just hope that from a lot of point of views that they continue.
Yes, I know I was thinking that one of the positives that we can say about this period is we're thinking more about maybe making in Britain and buying local, and it is very much about, you know, the community that you have closest to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the time we don't have this. We have some skills in Britain for fashion, the fashion industry, but a lot of them have been lost. But we're going to have to get them back, because, you know, we could be potentially entering a no Brexit deal. So, you know, we are going to have to make stuff in this country, and we're going to have to kind of encourage those skills, and yeah, and go back to sort of thinking about stuff being made in Britain, not in China or in the Far East or in other parts of Europe. So it's going to be an interesting time.
Yes, I was thinking about that as well, because there will definitely be a skills shortage. And I think it's possibly an opportunity for us to start teaching those skills. I mean, designers design, which is amazing, but surely they should also know how to put garments together.
Yeah.
Or how it's made.
I think if you do a fashion design course, you do learn how things are made. I think there's a bit of a shortage in terms of like skills across the board from an apprenticeship point of view, because not everybody wants to be a designer, not everybody wants to do a degree. So starting at that grassroots level, there should be more kind of encouragement of young people entering the fashion industry at that level, where they can do real life apprenticeships and learn established skills. It's just whether there are those people out there to teach them. You know, they're at the luxury level there are, because there are a lot of ateliers. It's like, it almost seems to be you have ateliers or you have like the sort of sweatshops, you know. I mean, I'm not necessarily right. But you know, we kind of associate stuff that's made in Britain with fast fashion at the moment, because it hasn't had a very good press. So we have to kind of find some middle ground somewhere and start developing things at a different level.
Absolutely. I mean, I was referring to, you know, like sewing and pattern cutting and all the basics that you need. Now we know that the landscape is ever changing, and brands can actually go on, for example, Instagram and promote themselves. And of course, being authentic is priceless. Does that still leave room for influencers? Are they still needed?
I think so. I think if you, again, it's that word genuine, and those words are genuine and authentic. Those genuine influencers that show you, that kind of get behind styles or style that they, you know, they would wear, and that is part of their aesthetic, for me, is something that I want to see. People that just sell you stuff on an ongoing basis, I just stop following them. And brands that only sell you things, I'm not interested in that either. I think brands need to think about social media as a way to connect and create communities, as well as a way to sell. Because if Instagram just becomes a selling tool, then it will turn people off. It's already, Generation Z are already not interested in it. It's not for them anymore because their parents are on it. It's the same thing happened to Facebook. They're on Snapchat and TikTok now. And eventually, there's a cycle with these things, you know, and eventually, you know, the older generation will get bored with it if all they see is adverts and people selling them things all the time. So if you are going to sell something on there, it has to be authentic, I think, and has to come from a storytelling point of view rather than a buy this kind of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think another area or another avenue that I've seen with regards to fashion and beauty brands trying to sell, essentially, is within esports and gaming.
Yeah.
Have you seen much of that?
Yeah, we've been talking about that actually this week. Yeah, it seems to be sort of that gamification is coming into lots of different areas, and it's an interesting one. We're also talking about Twitch, and I've been trying to get my head around that this week. I've just joined and taken a look at what that's all about, because there seems to be lots of conversation around that. Can't quite tell you what it is yet, but it is, again, it's about gaming. So yeah, I think that adds to the kind of fun element, because I think also, you know, you've got to make things a bit fun and a bit kind of enjoyable. It's not just got to be all serious and doom and gloom. So adding a sort of gamification element in does kind of help.
Yeah, I mean, I if I had a brand, I'd be fascinated, because it's I think it was $159 billion market.
Wow.
So
yeah,
who wouldn't want to, you know, dip their toe just to see what it's like?
absolutely. Yeah. We want to
for sure, for sure. What are some big lessons you think that we should learn from 2020?
I think doing the right thing. I think brands that weren't doing the right thing were called out. So being transparent is really important, and being honest and being kind. I think those are qualities that any brand should try to embed into their culture. I think being visionary and listening to your customer, or listening in general, listening to everybody's point of view, listening to your customer, and looking forward is really key, because I think one of the reasons we've seen so many people disappear from the high street is that they haven't listened, they haven't moved with the times, they haven't understood what the new generation wants. And it shouldn't just be all about what young people want, it should be what everybody wants. But young people are really driving these kind of new ways of learning, new ways of thinking, new ways of shopping. So we can't ignore those. We have to be aware of what's going on. I think embedding sustainability into everything you do. So asking yourself as a brand at the beginning of any process, is this sustainable? Is this a good thing to do? Is really, really important. And then just being human beings. I think we've learned that we need to, you know, be human first rather than, you know, people not profit is what we've been saying a lot. I mean, obviously everybody wants to make profit, but not at the expense of people, I think is really key.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was also thinking about collaboration. It's been around a little while, but I think it's even more important going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think embedding an element of surprise into things is going to be really important going forward. I think spontaneity and surprise and discovery and adventures are things that we've been missing because we haven't been able to do any of those things. We've had to just be at home and just be low key. So collaborations, unexpected collaborations are really, you know, going to be important. So if you think about something like Levi's and Lego, I mean, who thought they would have collaborated? You know, those kind of really kind of out there collaborations are really, really interesting. They may not make the brands loads and loads of money, but they're going to get them lots of PR. They're going to get lots of traffic on social media. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Collaborations are going to be key. And high and low collaborations. I really like the idea of that. So a luxury brand collaborating with someone that you wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah, yeah, that would be amazing going forward.
Lidl did some trainers or something. I don't know if they collaborated with someone, but you really didn't expect Lidl to be doing sort of a fashion range with written on it, but actually you look really quite cool. So yeah, that sort of thing is really unexpected and surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, without giving away any trade secrets, any predictions for 2021 that you could share?
I think that, what do you mean, in fashion or just generally? I mean,
a bit of both.
I think we're looking at the idea of nostalgia. So nostalgia making us feel comforted and making us feel safe. And we think that things like iconic updates are going to be really key in terms of that. So if you take an iconic product and update it, I mean, people like Nike, some of the sportswear brands are brilliant at doing this. So they take something, they update it, or they collaborate with someone and they make it completely new. So something that's well established and loved becomes like really iconic. So I think that's going to be key. I think DIY is going to be massive. We've already seen that on TikTok, people creating hybrid versions of things, creating their own trends. I mean, that's just huge, and that's just fun. You know, humor and fun is going to be really important because we need that in our lives. And the creativity that's coming out of something like TikTok is absolutely incredible. It's mind-blowing, and we can't keep up with it. It just kind of continues to be, and you can also learn a lot. You can, I was watching something about how to make roast potatoes on it the other day, and it's the randomness of it. It's like on one hand you get like a pet, and then you get some cooking, and then you get some fashion, and it's just so kind of random and unexpected and fun. So I think that's going to be a massive trend. And then also continuing the outdoors. I mean, being outside in nature has been such a massive part of all of our lives in the last 6 to 9 months, and we've appreciated that like we've never appreciated it before. So we are going to want to continue to do that, even if we're not in lockdown. We're living relatively normal lives. We've realized what the benefits of nature are, and with that we'll be continue to want to wear comfortable clothes and be able to walk. You know, I don't see really super high heels coming back anytime soon, because even the people that absolutely adore wearing high heels have realized that actually it's much more comfortable to wear flats. So we see clogs coming back, you know, we're seeing anything that's kind of comfortable and easy to wear will continue.
Okay, excellent. Oh, that time flew today.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Jane. Appreciate it. You're amazing as always.
Thank you.
It's been lovely having you. Thanks everyone for joining us for our last chat for 2020. Remember, you can catch up on IGTV and listen on various platforms, including Spotify. Within the T's and C's, have a lovely holiday season. Bye for now. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.